I hope you do not have plans this Saturday. This college football week 5 slate is one of the best slates we've ever seen. And we're going to be cashing all week long. So join us for our college football week 5 best bets. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the DGen Docs on DFSG Plus Sports Betting Channel. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts here, the DGen Doc, and we are talking college football, Week 5, best bets, amazing slate, and I'm joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, a.k.a. Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Man, I am glad I have no plans for this Saturday because we got a boatload of pretty good games here. What about you?
We do have a ton of good games, and we are getting into it. Look, college football week 5. First off, this is your first time joining us. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've been talking college football all year, every single week. And this week, we're going to do much of the same. So typically, we do our classic college football 6-pack. But this week is so good, we added a couple extra. You know, it's a 6-pack and a little bit of, you got to get 2 more because this is going to be such a good week. So we are breaking down 8 games for you over the span of Friday and Saturday. Not just the best games, but the games that we feel have the best betting edge to make you some cash. All plays are going to be assumed to be 1 unit except for our locks. So we're going to go through each 8 of the games, and then we will wrap up with our best bets. Lock is going to be 2 units, and then we'll do a money log dog and a teaser and a parlay for this awesome slate here. But hey, we've got some news to get to up top. Not always is college football do we have such breaking news, but we had 2 pieces of news that I have to get your reaction to. One of the legends of the game has been fired in Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy. The mullet is gone. What is your instant reaction to this news?
Yeah, I mean the mullet got cut today, which is crazy because I think I saw that he was at OK State for 21 years and only had 2 losing seasons over that time span. I mean, last year they going into the season there was some hype that they potentially could be in the contention for the Big 12. That didn't happen. You had Ollie Gordon coming back, and they were ready to rock and roll, and that they fell apart real quick. And then obviously this year not looking great, and then losing to Tulsa last week was just the straw that broke the camel's back. So
look, 1 and 2 got absolutely hosed by Oregon at Oregon. You know, Gundy was taking pictures with fans. He was kind of like, whatever. And then to lose to your interstate rival, your little brother, Tulsa, which I did cash with I think they were almost 4-1 on the money line. They were like 10.5. I mean, early in the week, they were 14 half point dogs. But yeah, that Oklahoma State team is just not talented. They look rough. And it sucks because a legend like that, you'd want to, let him go out on his own terms. Apparently, reports were saying they offered to, let him announce his retirement and he just coach out the rest of the year. Apparently, he said, "Nah, screw that. I'm not trying to retire." So yeah, they fired him. But man, look, what I will say is if Oklahoma State can fire their legend of a coach after a couple games, then University of Florida, you can fire a guy who only has won 20 games in 4 years, 20 and 22, a losing record at the University of Florida. But hey, we don't need to talk about that. I don't need to get on my soapbox. Gators aren't playing this week, so it's going to be a good week. I don't have to watch that.
There you go.
Quarterback news, very, very big. Look, Oklahoma Sooners 4-0. Yeah, they just took down Auburn in Norman. Huge game, beating their old quarterback in Jackson Arnold. John Mateer has been a guy who's lighting the world on fire after Oklahoma could not find a quarterback for their life the past couple of years. And we get the breaking news just a couple hours ago. Broken bone in his hand. Will have surgery tomorrow. Expected to miss a month. I know my good buddy called me like, "Hey, man, is he going to be ready?" Because Bye week, Kent State. Then it's the Red River rivalry,
Yep.
Red River shootout there with Texas, and then at South Carolina.
Right.
That Texas game in 3 weeks, man, it's going to be tough. What are
Yeah.
you
No doubt.
thinking here? Overall news, like I don't expect him to be able to push a broken bone kind of timeline. What's your thinking there?
No, no, I'm in agreement with you there. As far as healing timelines, I mean, bones, they we kind of have a general idea of how quickly they heal up. If it's a long bone, like your forearm, your shin, something like that, it's closer to 6 or 8 weeks. Some of the smaller bones in
Yeah,
your hands and your feet, a lot of times if they're, I'll say, minor fractures, it's like you
right.
said, kind of like that 3 to 4 week mark. But yeah, for that Red River rivalry, I don't necessarily know
3 weeks, man, and it's
if
in his
he's going to be
throwing
back.
hand. It's
Right.
in the thumb of his throwing hand. So now you're talking about grip strength, ability to
Yep.
hold on to the ball.
100%.
Is that going to get hit? You can't really play with a
Yep.
cast on it or a
Yeah.
brace, as you see some of those big old defensive, offensive linemen play with. That's not really an option on your
No,
throwing hand. So
definitely not.
I think it's tough given the circumstance that he's going to be out there.
Yeah.
But huge news, obviously, Oklahoma.
Absolutely
They look
massive,
great.
and a little bit of a surprise to me, after throwing for 270 being the leading rusher for the
Yeah,
Sooners this past weekend. I mean, like we said, he's a Heisman hopeful. He's been lighting the world on fire this year, and it'll be interesting to see how this hurts him in those
yeah,
races towards the end of the season. We'll see if somebody else can step up and take the horse by the reins at this point. But yeah,
right.
definitely a brutal time uh, down there in Sooner World.
And I will say, shout out to him. Apparently, he broke it in the first quarter. So one,
Yeah,
adrenaline is a hell of a drug,
no
and
shit.
two, dude, he's an absolute dog because yeah, he
Yeah,
absolutely performed, and no one really knew he was even injured. Now,
definitely.
backup quarterback is Michael Hawkins, who can run around, but not the best thrower of the football, which is kind of what you probably need to do
Right.
to beat the Texas defense. But man, hey, Arch Manning hasn't looked that great, so that might just be an ugly, ugly. I'm waiting for that number to drop to hammer that under
Yeah.
in that game. All right. Now, look, we're talking about this awesome slate of football. Josh Pate, if you follow college football, you're probably aware of the name. But he had a pretty funny tweet I was reading the other day that I'm pulling up here. He showed the slate of games, and I think this was a couple days ago. Maybe, yeah, what's today? 2 days ago on Sunday, he was like, look, this is a great slate. And then he writes, praying for any of our brothers being dragged to wedding Saturday because it is officially fall wedding season, which,
Yep.
typically as Americans, we don't negotiate with terrorists, but people still decide to do this. And so I was laughing at this. I'm like, damn, man, that would really suck. And then I realized, like, holy shit, I got to go to a wedding this weekend. This is me. I am one of those sad sacks that this is. So I'm
Yeah.
not super
Yeah. Pack.
excited about that. I'm
Yeah.
already anticipating having to use the restroom a lot and,
Hmm.
during the
Hmm.
ceremony and be checking in on some of these
I
games.
was,
So
I was gonna say you might want to pack a spare cell phone and get a couple games going on at the same time while you're sitting
yeah,
in the back row watching a couple friends get married.
I know. I'm gonna be just cheering random times during the ceremony. I just love, man. That's
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 right.
really what this is about. But
That's right.
look, hope you're not like me and have to battle some plans because I'm telling you, this slate is amazing.
Yep.
Now, what I will say is, this past weekend we talked about it. You kind of really got me on board to this. Getting into our a little bit of a short, quick recap from last week. We were
Yeah.
all over. Hey, you had a great week, 4-2. I went
Yep.
3-3, not the best. You hit your lock. You were on top of it. The one game we went against, you won, which was we'll get to in Texas Tech. But you
Yeah.
brought to my attention, dude, as much as, that pit loss in the backyard brawl was bad, this West Virginia team seems to be partying. You had Rich Rod on Pat McAfee. They look like they won the damn Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
we have to hammer Kansas. I had the opportunity to get some free tickets over here.
Yeah.
And I went out. My wife and I went to this game at Kansas, West Virginia. Absolute smackdown.
No
And of
doubt.
course, we had to represent. So this is in our archives now. We just did a little something simple. Pitt, West Kansas. Look,
Mutual.
we
Exactly.
agreed
Mutual friendship
W
there.
sucks, and we had to let Rich Rod know 13-9 will never die. Got to work my way down as all the West Virginia fans were leaving and hold that for the last 2 minutes of the game as it was 41-10. He was not happy. A
Mm,
lot of the WVU staffers were not too kind to our sign there. But hey, man, Kansas, they got a little revenge for us, so it was a
right.
fun time. I will say some West Virginia fans were chirping at me online. Look, college football is great. Rivalries are great. If you have the opportunity to go to any college football game, not even just to watch your bet cash, but to enjoy the atmosphere that is college football,
No
go.
doubt.
Because I mean, look, Lawrence, Kansas is not one of those places I thought was going to be super rambunctious and lit. They put a lot of money into that stadium. Super
Mhm.
cool environment. They had their blackout game. Fans were loving it. I learned that they wave the wheat when they score. We got to learn about
Okay.
that. So I mean, dude, college football is the best. So if you can go to a game, go see it in action. But all right, look, we talked about the week and getting into the week really quickly.
Yeah.
Weekday games, man, we've been crushing it. 4
Yeah.
and 0 last 2
Last couple
weeks,
weeks.
5
Yeah.
and 1 on the season we are. So when we give out weekday games and we have one today, might want to
Yep.
pay extra attention because we've been killing
Right.
it on Thursday and Friday nights. Now I want to get to you. Look, quick general week 4 takeaways. We kind of are getting to that point. We like to kind of, hey, peel back a little bit, get a little bit of the bird's eye view. What can we learn from this past week? What are a couple of things you're taking away from this week as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, those top, I'll say 10 to 12 teams are hitting their strides. And we didn't
Yeah.
have a great slate of games this past week. A lot of highly ranked teams going against very subpar talent,
Yeah.
especially down there in Miami. But anyways, um,
That's
there was a lot of
local.
beatdowns. There was a lot of beatdowns
Yeah.
of those from those top 10, top 12 teams. We had a bunch of teams off as well, but the teams that were supposed to handle their business
Right.
are handling their business at this point. There was a couple weeks ago where Texas was allowing, I can't remember who it was, to hang around into the second half, and
UTEP,
we
I
were
think.
having some. I think it was
Yeah.
UTEP, but yeah, I mean there were teams that were just kind of laying in the weeds and letting some of these um, non-power four
Yeah.
teams hang around. That was not the case this past weekend. Oregon absolutely crushed Oregon State.
Yeah.
LSU
Rivalry
blew
game.
out Southeast Louisiana. I don't even know where that school came from. Um,
Louisiana.
and yeah, I mean Texas finally figured out how to throw the
Yeah.
ball downfield and put up some points and actually held Sam Houston to a shutout. So yeah, I think that was the big thing for me. It was teams are starting to hit their stride, and we've started to learn a lot more about some of these teams that we were kind of wishy-washy about over the first 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and not even, you were mentioning, non-power five or four power four, but
Yeah.
even, Miami, Florida, as much as that hurt, they beat the heck out of Florida, where Florida
Yep.
was 13-7. Florida had their
Right.
chance, but ultimately lost by 3 touchdowns.
Right.
Indiana, Illinois. I mean,
Yeah.
like last week, man,
Ooh.
you were either really right, like Kansas, Rice, some of that, you on
Right.
Texas Tech, or we were really wrong, like that Indiana, Illinois game, Ole
No
Miss,
doubt.
Tulane.
Yep.
There were some absolute beat downs that were
Right.
projected to be fairly close games. So, as you
Yep.
said, if they're hitting their stride, man, some of these teams are really starting to fire on all cylinders. And then what I will mention is a little bit on this week and kind of a little bit as a whole, as we've seen
Yeah.
a power four sometimes, man, there really isn't that gap that we're thinking. Like a lot of people were saying NIL transfer portal is going to really separate the group of five and the power four.
It's
And
kind of
you
leveled things out a
Right,
little
and you
bit.
can say that about the tippy top, of course, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But, those teams that are kinda middling, Power 4 teams, there's been upsets every week. We just talked about Tulsa, Oklahoma State that got Gundy
Yep.
fired. Memphis
Yep.
beating Arkansas though that was at Memphis, but still. San Diego
Yep.
State, Cal, who's one of the teams that were the new hotness, 3-0 freshman quarterback, they got
Right.
housed 35-0 at San Diego State. Like, there,
Yep.
as much as people thought there was going to be huge separation, it
Yep.
seems like the
I mean,
middle to bottom of the Power Four and the Group of Five are just kind of getting closer as we kind of
yes.
go through here.
Yeah, I mean those top 10, 15 blue blood programs that we always expect to be around
Right.
are still doing what they've been doing for, the last 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean those bottom schools like a Vanderbilt last year coming from out of nowhere
Yeah.
and putting up some
I think they put up
They're a
70.
very credible program at this point,
Yeah.
and some of those middle schools are now pushing to try to win the Big Ten in Indiana and Illinois. So, yeah, I think it has basically leveled things out, and even going down to the FCS level. I mean,
Yeah.
some of those schools are picking up, Power Four level guys just because they went into the transfer
Opportunity.
portal and then didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah.
So some of those schools are coming along even better too. So
Yeah, no, I think it's made college football. I mean, college football's always been great, but I think it's
oh
made
yeah,
it like really fun. Like
yeah,
there's
it's
teams that
it's
little
even more
brothers that are
competitive now than it
winning.
always has been.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. All right, man. Let's do what we always do: power ranking adjustments. Taking
Yeah.
a last week, who's trending up, who's trending down for you. Looks like we
Mhm.
got some agreement this week, but I will let you start. Who are your trending up teams here?
Yeah, Indiana absolutely destroyed Illinois. Like that wasn't even close. And going into the season, Illinois was getting a lot of hype because they had 18, 19 returning starters. They had a
Yep.
ton of continuity. Indiana obviously had a great year last year, made it to the college football playoff, but they had a lot of turnover, a
Yeah, a
lot
lot.
of retooling through the transfer portal once again. That Indiana team, if they're in Bloomington, especially,
Tough
that's a tough
out.
team,
It's tough out
and
right now.
yeah, no doubt. Texas Tech, yeah, my Texas Tech to make the college football playoff is
Dude, you
looking
called me,
mighty
man. You
nice,
look good. It's looking
mighty
good right
nice
now.
right now at 4-1. So I'm liking what the Red Raiders are doing, and their schedule suits up pretty nicely. I think they have
I was
a
gonna say,
couple
are they what?
tougher games left. I think they go to Baylor, and there's another one that's kind
Well,
of iffy.
the Big
Arizona
12's a
State,
little bit
maybe.
tough because you could win every game, but you could also lose a lot of those games.
Yes,
Like
yes,
they tend to cannibalize each other.
right,
But at this point, it seems like a crash course with Texas Tech and Iowa State right now, as
right.
kind of separating themselves. They go to Houston. They're on bye this week. Then they go to Houston. They play Kansas at Arizona State. Could be tricky.
Yep,
But
definitely.
BYU. But I mean, you could make a case that they could win every game. Now, I don't know that they'll go undefeated, but I also don't think they
Sure.
have to
No,
make the playoff.
agreed.
So yeah, great call on Texas Tech.
Agreed. And then one of those powerhouses of the past is starting to make some noise again and out there in LA, and that's USC.
Yeah.
4-0 at this point, and I mean they played a Michigan State team that was also 3-0 this past week. I don't think
A
Michigan
little
State's
fraudulent, 3-0.
that good
Yeah.
of a team, but when you put up 45 points against a Big Ten opponent, it tells me something. So I think USC is starting to get things rolling once again, and time will tell to see,
Yeah.
if they can continue to keep things rolling out there.
And they've got a big test this week going over to Illinois there to
100%.
take on the Fighting Illini coming off an embarrassing loss. So that'll
Yep.
be in very interesting. There's so many games. Like there's so we'll usually only do 6. We had to expand it to 8, and we still have so many games that's like,
Yep.
man, like I wish we
Yeah.
could make
I
this.
it's one of those things, kind of like we were saying a couple minutes ago, that transfer portal, NIL. I mean, USC, Lincoln Riley has to have a boatload of money out there in LA. So
Oh yeah.
I would assume that USC is going to continue to rise over this season and into the future.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I will piggyback my trending up teams. 2 of them are exactly the same. Indiana, I mean, holy cow. We thought maybe they might win, but it'll be a close
Yep.
game. It'll be back and forth. No, they just did, like Kurt Zignaggi, man, talked his shit, and he
Yep.
absolutely backed it up, and his team
No
did.
doubt.
They were ranting all over people like it's going to be hard. This Indiana team looks really good, especially in Bloomington. Texas
Yeah.
Tech, I mean, hey, we talked about it. To go into Rice Eccles Stadium and
Yep.
beat them, and not only and their starting quarterback in Barry Morton got hurt, and the backup
Right.
kind of looked better. But I mean, for the backup quarterback to go and play in that hostile environment when the game was still in hand,
Yep.
very very impressive. And then Ole Miss to do what they did to Tulane, a Tulane offense that had been high flying and Retclaff and made them look very pedestrian. That game
Yep.
wasn't even close. So for them to really step up and show that they can turn it on. That quarterback from Ferris State there, Chambliss, they've got a true quarterback controversy, which we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Yeah.
But very impressive for what they did. All right, let's go the other way. What teams are you're kind of trending down in your power rankings?
Yeah, I mean, Illinois is gonna be one of those after getting blown out by 53 points with
Yeah.
all of those returning starters. I mean, it's hard not to put this on the list, and we're starting to figure out what these teams are after 4 or 5 weeks. So I think
Yep.
it's getting harder to figure or to make these lists in terms of trending up and trending down, just because we kind of know where teams
Yeah.
lie. But Illinois is definitely going to be one of those as a top 10 team going into the week and lose by 53. Utah again, just getting absolutely blown out
At home,
at
backup
home.
quarterback, half the game. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's hard when it's a 10 o'clock local kick, but
9,
still
9
to
a.m.
9 a.m. But to get blown out by 24 points, pretty tough. And then Cal, Cal was starting to look pretty good, to be honest with you.
At 3 and
Um,
0, freshman quarterback, hype,
it,
hype, hype.
yeah, and I can't say the freshman quarterback's name, but I mean he was looking really
Yeah.
good. And then they got shut out this past weekend. So
By San Diego State. Like, and I mean, I know it's on the road, but that's not like, that's not one of the premier, hostile environments, even in the
right,
group of five. So for that to happen, I mean, hey, that's what happens when you start to get some hype there, I guess. But
yep.
yeah, that was not a great performance by Cal there. Yeah, I think what is it? His initials are J
JKS
JKL. Yep.
Sagapulotali.
Yeah, I mean, good on you for trying, brother. I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave
I
that gonna
tried.
leave that alone. All right,
Who
my
you got?
trending down teams, two of them are exactly the same. I think you brought up great points. Not only to lose, but to lose in the fashion that they did. They got their ass kicked in Utah and
Yes.
Illinois. The other two is kind of like we kind of already know what these teams are, but I'm
Yeah.
throwing them in here this week for probably just to emphasize it because it'll probably be the last time I can throw them in because you can only
Right.
get to the basement so far, and that's Clemson. What the hell is going on down there in Clemson, South Carolina?
I don't know, man.
I mean, Dabo. I mean, look, there's nothing you can really do with
No.
Dabo. I mean, he's been you've been to the playoff, you've won championships. I mean, he's kind of really taking that team, but to lose to a Syracuse team that, I mean, they really should have lost to UConn, so they really should have had two losses already. Don't
Right.
really think. I mean, Tennessee just beat the living crap out of them. Like, I don't think that's really one of even the good teams in the ACC, let alone Power Four.
Yep.
So that's just so embarrassing. And at home, like Death Valley, like you're 0-2 now in league play. That's brutal. And
Yep.
then WU, man. I mean, we knew WU was not a good team. That was way more about Pitt and their ineptitude and their, whether it's coaching, whether it's Holstein, whatever. But yeah, just for all the WVU fans that maybe thought that they actually had a good team, no, they still don't have any quarterback. I watched it firsthand. Nico Marchiol couldn't do anything all day. They scored their one touchdown in absolute garbage time when it was 34-3. And yeah, they were terrible. That
Yeah.
offense was painful to watch. So that's good at least that WU still sucks. So all right,
Yep.
let's get to what we all came for, and that is the game picks, the week 5 slate here. Look, folks, we are doing the odds via DraftKings to keep it simple here. So we are starting off with our first game of the slate here, and it's a Friday night game. It is the not Utah, excuse me, the Houston.
University of Houston.
Yeah, I want
There we go.
this damn logos always throw me off. The University of Houston Cougars at 3-0, heading over to Corvallis to take on the 0-4 Oregon State Beavers.
Yep.
Houston is laying a big number, minus 13 and a half, minus 110. Over under sitting at 47 and a half. Oregon obviously catching 13 and a half points at home. They are plus 425 home dog, and Houston is a huge minus 575 on the money line. Where are you
Yep.
going in this one on Friday night over in Corvallis?
Yeah. I mean, I think Oregon State is 0-4 and they haven't been competitive in a single game. I mean, their closest game was a few weeks ago to Fresno State, where they lost by 9 points
Yeah.
at home.
Yep.
And so, when it comes to just looking at who they've lost to, Cal, Fresno, Texas Tech, Oregon, like we think Texas Tech and Oregon are pretty damn good teams.
Right.
The other two, on the other hand, I think Houston blows them out.
Yep.
So give me the Houston Cougs at minus 13 and a half.
Yeah, I'm all over Houston this week. Willie Fritz is a great head coach.
Yep.
Connor Wegman was a highly recruited guy, dealt with injuries. He's finally getting healthy, using
Yep.
his legs, looking good in that offense. They have a road win at Rice, which, hey, Rice is 3-1 now. They just
Yep.
had a big win at Charlotte that we cashed on last week. They're not the
Right.
best team, but they went on the
No.
road and they beat a solid Rice team 35-9. I think Rice could beat Oregon State right now. I
Yes.
mean, they opened up the season, like you said, playing Cal, lost by 19 points, is that, or something to that effect. And this Cal team just lost to San Diego State by 35. Like, I don't think, they haven't really, they've gotten demolished. Their
Oh yeah.
average
I mean,
margin of defeat is 23.25 points. They're -4 in turnover ratio. Meanwhile, Houston is +6 in the turnover department, and they're putting up 32.7 points a game, while Oregon State's only putting up 16.
yeah. I
So,
mean, Oregon State gives up 39 points a game,
yeah,
and
and they
I
score
mean,
16.
Houston,
Like
exactly. And
that's not
Houston,
working.
I
So,
mean, right. I mean, they have one of the worst defenses in the league. They gave up 180 yards on the ground and almost 300 yards passing every single game. Like, you are not winning. You're not keeping things close when you're giving up almost 500 yards every
yeah.
single game.
So,
So, I mean,
like the
Houston's
numbers,
defense has been pretty good. Have they
yeah,
played anybody? No, but I mean, their defense is pretty solid. They've been, I'll say, fair on offense, especially on the ground.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
And
Houston.
I mean,
I'm all over Houston.
Houston beat a Colorado team. I know it was at home by 16. Like, that's not a
Yeah,
terrible Colorado team.
no,
Colorado has looked competent. They were neck and neck with Georgia Tech week 1 or week 0, week 1, whatever that was.
yep,
They beat Wyoming last week. Like, they look like a competent team, and Oregon State does not. So I know it's a big number, but it's not nearly big enough. Under 2 touchdowns, absolutely give me Houston, and we'll both
yep,
be riding the Cougs on Friday night, where we're 5-1 on the year, 4-0 past couple weeks. So
that's
we'll keep
right,
riding it
that's
as
right.
my cat decides that she wants to be in the shot here. So next game, Saturday, September 27th. Oh, I'm sorry, that Friday game was the 26th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Late
There's a
one.
couple good games on Friday. We couldn't talk about them all, as we said. I
Yep,
will say, Florida State, you better not. They got a Miami rivalry game in 2 weeks. They're going to Charlottesville to play the
yep,
Virginia Cavaliers, who look pretty damn good. I will be on points in that game, and the Wahoos to potentially get the major upset, but definitely cover the points. So did want to throw that out there. But Saturday slate, because we've got such an awesome slate, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, September 27th, we have the 1-2, but 22nd ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish and versus the 2-2 Arkansas Razorbacks there.
yeah. Fire the graphics guy on that one. Somebody forgot to change some records there, but it's fine.
Oh, there you go. All right, yeah, we'll definitely put them. We'll talk to the graphics department.
Yeah,
But
please do.
2-2 Arkansas Razorbacks. Look, Notre Dame is laying 4 -108 on the road. Arkansas +4 -112. Over under sitting at a huge 64.5. On the money line, Notre Dame is -185 and Arkansas is +154. This
Yep.
game opened at 6.5. All the money, all the steam is coming in on Arkansas. What are you doing? Are you going to be fading that, or are you going to be riding that steam with, it seems like, most of the public?
Yeah. We're not the public. We're sharps over here. We're pros. We're not Joes. So give me the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think this past weekend they didn't look great in the first half, but they figured it out in the second half against Purdue. Um, and both of the teams that they lost to in Texas A&M and Miami are both looking really really solid. On the other hand, Arkansas. I don't necessarily know what Arkansas is, but after the couple of losses that they have had the last couple of weeks, I probably should have put them on the trending down list, to be honest with you. Arkansas's offense has been putting up some points, but defensively, when you give up 32 and 41 each of the last 2 weeks, like I don't necessarily think they're going to stop CJ Carr and the stable of running backs that he has at his disposal. So yeah, give me Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean we'll start off agreeing again. I think that this is getting a bit ridiculous. I understand Notre Dame's defense, especially, is not what we thought they were at the
No.
beginning of the year, right? They
Yep.
were a very dominant group last year. You lose, Al Golden goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, where that defense is getting lit up too. But
Yep.
they get the change there. Chris Ash comes in, and it has been a disappointment. The
Yep.
offenses look pretty damn good, but you lose at Miami, which doesn't look like a terrible loss. Texas A&M
Nope.
comes in. You lose on the final play, but you give up 40 something points at home. Should not
Yep.
happen. They got that right a little bit against Purdue. But yeah, the offense is humming. And
Yep.
as bad as, look, their pass defense has not been as good. Their two starting quarterbacks are questionable this week. I get what's going on there. But we got to look at the Arkansas side of the ball, too. Like,
Yep.
I mean, both these offenses are going, but Arkansas's defense has also been trash, and their level of competition has been significantly worse. They've
Yep.
only beaten Arkansas State and Alabama A&M. They just lost to, non-power 4 Memphis team. They went over
Yep.
to Ole Miss and they gave them a good fight, but, ultimately wind up losing there. So I think that Notre Dame, their coaching, Marcus Freeman, I trust him more than Sam Pittman there. I think the
Yep.
coaching and the talent is just going to get them there. I think we're getting a discount. I think it's a good buy low opportunity on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I am not, sold on this. Look, their Arkansas offense is fun, and this might
Yep.
be a little bit of a shootout, but under a touchdown, I think Notre
Yeah.
Dame's going to be able to pull this out. I think they hear the rumblings. They have the talent on the defensive side of the ball. They got to put it together a little bit. I think they do. I think this is
Yeah.
a great spot.
Yeah. No. And going back to your coaching point, like Marcus Freeman is one hell of a good coach. And one way that we
Yep.
can tell that is just by how disciplined of a team that he has. And right now, Notre Dame's 10th ranked, only giving up 30 yards per game in terms of penalties.
Yeah.
Arkansas, on the other hand, is not very disciplined at this point. They're giving up over 50 yards per game, and they're ranked 70th.
Yeah. That could
So
be huge. Yeah.
yeah,
One
so when it
game.
comes to, the coaching side of things, like you said, I think we can definitely trust Marcus Freeman, um, way before we would side with, Sam Pittman.
Yeah, look, I think Notre Dame can be a susceptible team compared to what we thought they were at the beginning of the year, but I don't think
Yeah.
Arkansas is the team that's going to do it. So,
Nope.
especially
Agreed.
coming off a heartbreaking loss to in-state rival, like you can't lose to Memphis if you're the University of Arkansas.
Right.
Like that can't, or excuse me, not in-state, but border rival there with Memphis being in Tennessee. So,
Right.
yeah, give us the Fighting Irish there. All right, moving over to game number 3. Sticking in that 12 p.m. Eastern time window, we've got a classic Big Ten battle here. We've got the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, the 3-1 Rutgers Scarlet Knights, heading
Yep.
over up to the University of Minnesota there to take on those Golden Gophers up in Minnesota. The Gophers are, I keep saying golfers. The Gophers are 2-1 there. They're coming off a bye week. Rutgers is catching 4.5 points in this one over in Minneapolis. They are plus 160 on the money line. While meanwhile, obviously Minnesota laying minus 4.5 at minus 108, and they are minus 218. Over under is at 51.5.
Yep.
How do you see this one going down over there in Huntington Bank Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a close game. We kind of talked about it at the top of the show that some of these middle of the road teams, bottom part of the conference teams, are starting to even out quite a bit, and I think Rutgers and Minnesota are exactly that. I mean, Rutgers being 3-1 hasn't really played anybody. That had a pretty close game last week against Iowa
Mm-hmm.
that we cashed on, which was nice.
Yep. Nice
And
Friday
they've been
night
putting up
cash.
exactly, and I mean Rutgers has been putting up a boatload of points, averaging over 40 points a game.
Yeah.
The problem with that is Minnesota's defense is really rocking at this point. Now, have they played anybody? Not really, but they have the number one overall defense, only giving up 177 yards per game. They've only given up 41 yards per game on the ground, which is first in the country to this point in the season, and they're only giving up 12 points a game.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be one of those defensive battles when it comes to Big Ten ball as a whole, and I'm taking the under with this one. I'm not touching the spread. I don't know enough about Minnesota,
Yeah.
to lay that 4.5. and I think Rutgers, the teams that they have beaten, they've beaten a couple MAC teams in Norfolk. So, yeah, give me the under 51.5.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not going to be going against you, but I am. I'm going on. I'm all over Rutgers this week.
Yeah,
We bet Iowa. That was a lot more of a sweat than I thought it was going to be.
I agree.
Um, Iowa typically, historically, absolutely dominates Rutgers, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, where Iowa
Right.
shuts down that Rutgers offense. This Rutgers offense, man, they were humming.
Pretty good.
Kaliak Manis, the quarterback, and really that wide receiver Ian Strong. He is a true NFL prospect. If you didn't see
Yeah,
him,
he's pretty good.
this dude is a fun watch. He is a solid wide receiver, and I don't know if I can trust the Minnesota offense. Like,
Yeah,
look, both teams, you can make the argument. Yeah, so Rutgers has beaten Ohio, which is probably the top contender in the MAC, the reigning champions.
yep,
They beat Ohio. They beat Miami of Ohio, who's a middling MAC team, and then Norfolk, who's low FCS. But Minnesota has just beaten Buffalo by 13, which Buffalo is near the bottom of the MAC. They're not showing well. They almost lost to
right.
Kent State, and then they beat who is it? Northwestern State
Northwestern
Demons.
State.
Absolutely awful FCS, and then they lost to Cal. Again, this Cal team that just got hosed by San Diego State. Like, they
Yep,
lost by 13. They only scored, what was it, 13 points or 14 points.
yep.
I don't know if I can trust this offense. So that's kind of the thing. I think that Rutgers, they're putting up 35, almost 36 points a game, and Minnesota's hasn't even cracked 20. And both, you could argue, both teams haven't played the greatest level of competition. So really, like, what they were able to do to a very good Iowa defense, that opened my eyes, man. I think the wrong team's favored here. Typically, both these teams are play through your defense. The offense has to just do enough. And I
Hmm.
think Minnesota is that way, but I think Rutgers is actually going to bring some pop on offense. So I give me Rutgers to cover the 4.5. And yeah, man, I really like this. I like this team outright this week. I think the wrong team's favored here.
Yeah, no, I think I would probably go that way. Like I said, I just don't know enough about Minnesota, and I think the other thing that Minnesota has going for them is they're coming off a bye,
Right?
so they do have a little bit
Time to
extra
prepare.
time to prep for Rutgers and that high flying offense. And
Yep.
like I said, I think Minnesota, the, their best unit by far is their defense. So
Yep.
hopefully they can get the offense going a little bit, but not enough to cover that spread.
Well, not to hit that total, but yeah, well,
Well, yeah. Well,
let's
since
win the game outright. Fuck the spread.
okay.
All right. So game number 4. You could probably tell in the audience this is a little bit near and dear to one of the hosts' heart because he decided to add a graphic, a little bit of an extra graphic that no other team has. But I guess they are the reigning
No,
national champion.
no other team has that. So
You're correct. You are correct. We've got a very, very fun one here. Keeping to that Saturday slate, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Head into the afternoon. Here we have the number 1 reigning national champion, 3-0 Ohio
yep,
State Buckeyes that are taking on the 3-0 unranked Washington Huskies, all the way in Husky Stadium in Seattle, Washington. Long, long trip. You've got the Buckeyes laying a big 8.5 at minus 105. They are minus 325 on the money line. Washington plus 8.5, minus 115, and they are plus 260 home dogs. Over under sitting at 51.5. I don't even know if I have to ask, but where are you going in this one?
well, you see, the last time Ohio State went out west, they got beat. Now that was to an Oregon team that ended up winning the Big Ten last year,
Right.
but I think that I have to take the Washington Huskies in this one plus eight and a
What?
half. I do.
You?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I can't wait to hear this. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Washington's offense has been humming. I mean, they're the second best scoring offense in the country right now at 55 points per game. Now, have they played anybody? No, they have not. Ohio State's defense is the number 1 scoring defense in the country, only giving up 5 points a game.
That's
The problem
insane.
with this
5
is
points.
for the Buckeyes is this is Julian Saint's first road start, and it's on the West Coast.
Yep.
So I think it's one of those where I'm probably going to be hammering those like uh win margin things where
Right.
Ohio State wins, Washington covers. Because I do think that the Huskies have a pretty good squad, especially on offense. Defensively, a little susceptible, and I think that Julian Sayin and the boys will get things rolling and end up winning the game. But I think this one's a little bit tighter towards the end. Either Washington backdoors this one, or it's never necessarily a game, but it's just a close score.
Okay. All right. Wow. I'm shocked. As we've said multiple times, we do not share our picks. We kind of, reveal them a little bit on air. And I did not think you'd go that way, but that makes me feel better about backing
Well,
these.
when you force me to pick games that I don't like to pick, I try to be as unbiased as I can, and
That's good.
sometimes I do end up having to pick the other squad.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, we've picked one Ohio
But
State game
hey,
so far this
if
year.
if they cover,
You
at
won't be
least I
mad.
win.
All right. Well, I will say we picked one Ohio State game this year. Week one, Ohio State, Texas. You were on the right side there with backing your Buckeyes, so maybe you'll be on the right side again. But I will be agreeing with you. I will be taking these Washington Huskies plus 8.5. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of good things. Big thing, Julian saying, quarterback who has not a lot of experience, first time going on the road. Not only is he going on the road, he's going on a huge road trip, right? So we've kind of got some data where you could just kind of anecdotally see these teams that head all the way out to the West Coast,
Yep.
don't typically do as well, or there's vice versa. Those West Coast teams that go all the way to the East Coast, they are a little bit sleepy and don't perform as well. Some data here in those road trips that have crossed at least two time zones. Those teams are 35, 43, and 2 against the spread. Not great, but especially when they go as favorites. Teams that go as favorites are a 10, 19, and 1, just a 34.5% cover rate last season with 9 outright upsets out of those, what is that, 30 games there.
Yeah.
So Buckeyes might be on upset alert here. Another thing, you mentioned a lot of
Eh.
the high flying offense. You're right. They really haven't played the level of competition. Ohio State, though, I mean, I understand their defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but they played a Texas team where Arch Manning, first road start, hasn't really looked that great. Ohio, that game was a little bit closer,
Yep.
and Grambling, which is a joke there.
And I think
So
that kind of leads into this too. Is like the game script, the game plan going into that Texas game. They definitely shielded Julian Sayin, and they didn't necessarily let him throw the ball over the yard. They
right.
called the game very conservatively. I think this is going to be another one of those games um, that is fairly similar.
Yeah, and look, I mean, and Washington hasn't left the state of Washington all season. They played two
Right.
games at home. They played, they beat the shit out of a
Wazoo.
bad Wazoo team. The other
Yep.
thing is, I will mention Washington typically is known for producing really good defensive backs. They have a knack for having a good DB room, which obviously, if you're going up against Ohio State, you have to be able to cover if you want. I gotta cover the number, right? So I think them and
Won't
that
have
kind
the best defensive back, but they'll have some decent ones.
well, yeah, Caleb Downs is a little bit hard to
He's
dethrone,
not
but
bad.
collectively as a unit,
Yeah.
I think those guys
Sure.
will be up for the challenge there.
Yep.
And then Jonah Coleman is an absolute dog. If you have not watched Jonah Coleman, who came over from Arizona, and such a good running back. So this is gonna be a fun one, man. This just starts off in amazing. Kind of the morning's gonna be fun.
Yep.
That kind of early slate, but really starting at 3:30 windows where we start to pick it up and kick it into absolute high gear.
No
So
doubt.
both back in the Huskies here, even the Ohio State fan. All right, we are now sticking in that 3:30 window, and we are talking about this game here, which is huge one in the SEC. We've got a top 15 battle. The 4-0 LSU Tigers are taking on the 4-0 number 13 team in the land, Ole Miss Rebels there. This is again a 3:30 kick on
I liked
Saturday.
your little Brian Kelly accent there. That was nice.
Me
That
and
was
my
nice.
family.
Yeah.
Yo, Tigers. But look, in Oxford, in the Grove here, we've got LSU as a small dog, if we can even really call it that. They're catching 1.5 points, minus 115. They're minus 105 on the money line.
Yep.
Ole Miss, laying 1.5 and minus 105, minus 115 on the money line there.
Yep.
Over under sitting at 54.5. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, we got some news earlier, just I think it was yesterday,
Right.
that Lane
Breaking
Kiffin
news.
is feeling like he's going to be putting up some points in this one. Kiffin basically just tweeted, "Hey, take the over against this LSU Tigers team."
Yeah, and
I don't
listen,
necessarily know if I fully trust Lane Kiffin, but I think there will be some points scored in the game. We'll see if it ends up getting up to 54 and a half. But yeah, I think this LSU team is 4-0, and their two best wins are against 1-3 teams in the Florida Gators and Clemson Tigers. So I don't
yeah,
necessarily know if we truly know how good LSU is. Like,
yeah,
yes, they're a pretty good squad, but Nussmeier has struggled. Not mightily, but definitely more so than what I was expecting from a third or yeah, at least the
yeah,
second year starting quarterback, if not third year starting quarterback. And that
yeah.
LSU team just doesn't seem to be too disciplined at the same time, like we were talking earlier. So, give me the Ole Miss Rebels in the Fighting Lane Kiffins.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't have a lot to kind of combat that point. I kind of stayed away from either side, and I'm going to go with the under here, 54 and a half. You know, and a lot of it is my distrust of the LSU offense. Like
Yeah,
LSU finally has a defense after years and years of great offense and just no defense,
right.
but it may have come at expense of their offense. That offense has not kicked it into high gear at all when they've
No,
played anyone with a pulse. For
right,
example, as you were mentioning, they haven't really cleared. Look, they beat a bad Clemson team, but they only put up 17. They beat a
yep,
bad Florida team. They only put up 20. And that 20 is really 13 because DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions, one of them being a pick six.
pick six.
How you only score 20 points when you have 5 turnovers and a pick, including a pick six, is
Right,
absolutely insane to me. Look, Florida's got a decent defense. Obviously, Clemson does well. Maybe Clemson doesn't. Maybe let Syracuse score all over them. But
yeah,
like their defense I can trust. Their offense I cannot trust right now. And
yep,
we saw Ole Miss's defense come to play against Tulane last week. We'll
yes,
see
they
if
did.
they're that high flying. And then Ole Miss on that side, they've got a little bit of quarterback controversy. Austin Simmons was the starter. He banged
Right,
up his ankle, but it was pretty minor. Like he's gonna be cleared to play for this game. And the transfer from Ferris State D2 Chambliss there comes in and kind of lights it up.
right,
So, what do they do there? They got to figure that out for the quarterback. But you know, to win, I think Ole Miss probably gives. I have a little more trust. It's a little bit hard sometimes with Kiffin going to these big games, but
sure.
I think that both defenses come to play. I think we have a tough, gritty SEC game. Give me the under 54 and a half here. And yeah, to that, he tweeted that under the reveal of his daughter is dating star LSU linebacker Whit Weeks. So
Yeah,
crazy to announce that to the world of the game, the week you guys play. So maybe
right.
some players are a little bit distracted. Maybe the defense it matters a little bit more for weeks and shutting down this Ole Miss offense. So it's going to be a fun one. And you are on the Ole Miss Rebels, and I am on the under in this game. All right,
Yep,
sticking in this same window, Big Ten, huge matchup here. We have the Indiana Hoosiers. They are heading out to Iowa City, Iowa, to
yep,
take on the Iowa Hawkeyes. You have the 4-0 Indiana Hoosiers, who are the number 11 team in the country, taking on the 3-1 Iowa Hawkeyes over there in Iowa City. And Indiana is laying 7.5 points, -108, -298 on the money line. Iowa catching 7.5 points, -112. They're +240 on the money line as home dogs here.
yep.
Where do you got going in this Big Ten matchup?
Yeah, I mean, Iowa is basically the Iowa of old. I mean, they have a top 20 defense. They
Yeah,
have a bottom, I don't know, whatever offense. I mean, I think they're 54th in total scoring offense, only scoring 33 points per game, but they're only giving up 14 and a half. On the other
right.
hand, this Indiana team, offensively, they have been just lighting it up all over the place, putting up almost 600 yards per game, and their defense isn't hasn't been too bad either. I mean, they're
That's
only giving up
insane.
8 points per
Yeah,
game. So, I mean, with that being said, I watched the first 3 quarters of that Indiana Illinois game last week. Just being a Big Ten guy, I wanted to see what these fourth best Big Ten teams, or
Yeah.
potentially fourth best Big Ten teams were looking like. And Indiana really, really impressed me, especially offensively, putting up 63. So give me the Hoosiers on the road to cover the spread.
Wow. Okay. We will be disagreeing here because you don't go into Kinnick Stadium as a high ranked team and walk out with the victory very often. Iowa 5-1 at home against top five teams since 2008, which is incredible. This game opened at
Ooh,
-3.5,
yeah,
and they, everyone seems to be jumping all over Indiana. Indiana's riding this high. Look, man, they looked really good. I'm not going to discredit that at all because they just beat the hell out of Illinois. But they're now taking to the road, and it's their first road game. Mendoza, although not, a rookie quarterback, obviously he isn't the most experienced. He's got 1 year experience as a starter, so it's his first Big Ten road environment. Playing, at Cal, I don't think he's seen a place like Kinnick Stadium like he's going to see it on Saturday. I
nope.
trust Kirk Ferentz to keep this close, man. I think that, yeah, you're right. Look, they're riding high off a massive blow-in win. They've been eating all this rat poison, as Saban would call it, all week. Everyone's been telling them how great they are. And I think they're going to walk into a little bit of a sleeping giant in Iowa. Look, Iowa is a solid team. Their
Yeah,
3-point losses to Iowa State, who we think is
right,
one of the better teams in the country.
right.
I think their offense has showed enough to keep this close. I think you're going to ride Kinnick Stadium. I will not be fading Kinnick, and I think that it's going to be an absolutely electric environment. I think, yes, Illinois, got hosed, and we were kind of on them. But when we look at Illinois, like, they're a little bit like they beat a Duke team that turned the ball over 5 times, and outside of that, hadn't really played anybody. So I'm not ready to say that Illinois was a top 10, 15 team. And I think that Iowa is a team that is good enough to make the playoffs. So I think they got a big test here, but I think 7.5 is just too much there.
Yeah, no, I think to me, looking at last week, and you mentioned it earlier, Rutgers is much better offensively than in past years. You still gave up 28 points to a Rutgers game. Now
You
that
did?
was on the road; it wasn't in Kinnick, but
Right.
this Indiana offense, like I said,
They
I
can
watched
hum.
this offense. They can hum, and if I were to try to put a spread on Indiana and Rutgers, it would be more than 7 points.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think this Indiana Hoosiers offense, assuming that it's anywhere close to what it was last week, it's a buzzsaw. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, Iowa, Iowa's a tough place to play.
That's going to be a really intriguing game, man.
Yeah,
It's kind of like, is Indiana as good
one of
as
those
they've shown?
sneaky good games going into this weekend for sure.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to have multiple TVs going, folks.
Yeah.
All right, we're
Well,
going to finish up with our
plus, we haven't even touched on football. Isn't even one of, or I mean, football is always going to be the highlight of our weekend.
right.
There's another big highlight this weekend.
Uh oh, what are we talking about here?
Are you not American?
You're
It's
talking about?
Ryder Cup. It's Ryder Cup
Oh
weekend, baby.
golly, bro! Do
Come
not
on now.
talk. It is
Come
football
on now.
season. Golf. The only golf I'm watching
I'm,
is Happy Gilmore drunk off my
I'm
ass
gonna
on
have to set
Saturday
up a
night.
second TV, get the quad box going, set the Ryder Cup off to the
Look,
side.
man, go America. I'm always gonna root for America, but I'm not watching no damn golf. If I'm gonna
Come
get in
on
trouble for being on my damn phone at this wedding, it ain't gonna be because of golf. I'll tell you that. All right, let's get to these nightcap and let's get to our best
Yeah,
bets and get on out of here. Two amazing. It's like it's like almost like the rise in bars. Like the slate just builds to an
just keeps
absolute
getting better. It
climax
does.
of the nighttime. We've got two top 20 games that rivalry wise is going to be feel much bigger. But
Oh yeah.
first game, number 6, Oregon Ducks. They are 4-0 heading into Happy Valley to take on the number 3 team in the country in those Penn State Nittany Lions. They're going into Beaver Stadium. And look, man, Oregon's catching 3.5, -112. They are +145 on the money line. Penn State -3.5, -108, -175 on the money line. Over under sitting at 52.5. Huge game in the Big Ten in college football playoff. I mean,
Massive.
massive game. Where are you going in this one?
This is a tricky one. I mean, you got two teams that haven't played jack shit
Yep.
through the first 4
Nobody.
weeks.
Literally nobody.
Um, but I think it's just one of those things where looking at history, um, James Franklin is not good against top level teams.
No.
I believe he's 4-20 against top 10 teams. And Oregon, I think 6 is in the top 10.
You
So I'm going to take
math
the
is
Oregon
math.
Ducks, even in the whiteout over there in State College. Yeah, I think that the Oregon Ducks get things rolling. I just don't know if all of the hype is necessarily warranted for this Penn State team. Last time we saw them in the Big Ten championship, Oregon blew them out. So
Yep. Yeah, I'm all over Oregon. You said it. I mean, James Franklin 7-26 against top 25, 4-20 against top 10. To reiterate your point, and I mean, both have played garbage, like schedule wise.
yes,
However, Penn State is like the almost like the top tippy top of garbage in playing Nevada, FIU, and Villanova.
yeah,
Nevada, Villanova, obviously Villanova, not even an FBS team. Nevada, one of the worst FBS teams.
yeah,
FIU, not great. They're not terrible, but they're not great. Meanwhile, at
yeah.
least Oregon's played 3 Power 4 schools. Now, they're also near the bottom, but in Oklahoma State, Northwestern, and Oregon State. But they went on the road at Northwestern.
Yep.
Yes, they only won by 20, but up until late in the fourth quarter, that game was 34-0. Northwestern
Yes.
scored like in the final minute, like very garbage time. So Oregon has done what good teams do, and that
Yep.
is, you say all the time, beat the shit out of bad teams. Penn State has shown, like, why are they not up more? They've dressed up almost all of these games
They
late,
have.
especially
Yep.
FIU and
Yep.
Villanova even, but they kind of made that look a lot better. And Drew Aller, 65% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception against 3 of the worst teams that you can physically play at the college football level.
Yep.
So if he wasn't lighting up there, why am I going to be trust him to lay points against a much more talented Oregon team? I
Yep.
think Dan Lanning at this point is a better coach than James Franklin. He's still younger, got a little bit more to prove, but Franklin
Yeah.
not good in big games. So
No.
I don't understand why we are laying points. I get like the odds makers. I
The
feel like they have
it's
to
it's the
because it's
whiteout
right.
effect, dude. It has to be, and I mean, like we keep saying, like neither of these teams have really shown that they can hang with a decent team to this point. Like, um, I think it's truly just Penn State at home. Oregon has that longer road trip.
Sure.
But at the same time, like Indianapolis is in the Eastern time zone last time I checked.
Yeah.
And Oregon's went to the Big Ten championship and beat Penn State both of the last 2 years in Indy. So they can make that trip. Now, Penn State's home environment is definitely going to be different
Tough
than
place to
a
play.
Big Ten championship. But yeah, I don't necessarily know why Penn State's truly favored in this one.
Yeah, no, yeah, give us both Oregon there. The Ducks taking the West Coast to come to the East Coast and kick some ass.
Yep.
Last game that we have for y'all, and it is a big one. Especially college football the past 5-10 years you talk about. You've got
Yep.
the 2-1, number 17 team ranked team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, taking on the 3-0, number 5 team in the country, Georgia Bulldog, between the hedges in Athens, Georgia, at Sanford Stadium, excuse me. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Bama is catching 3 points at -108. They're plus 130 on the money line. Georgia laying 3 at home, -112, -155 on the money line. Over under sitting at 52.5. Two perennial teams that past 5-10 years dominant, but neither
Yep.
has looked as dominant as years past.
Right.
Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, I'm going back to the history books in this one again, and since Kalen DeBoer has become the head coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide, they've only played in 6 true road games,
Yeah.
and Kalen DeBoer is 2-4 on the
Oof.
road.
Yeah.
2-4. Georgia also has this big revenge angle where Alabama came into their place last year. And that's one other thing that I have with this game. Like, why are we not doing Alabama, Georgia, at Alabama, at Georgia? We have 2 back-to-back years in Georgia, which is just strange to me. But
Yeah.
Georgia revenge angle, I think, is massive, especially with Kirby Smart having a little bit of extra time to prep
Yeah.
for this Crimson Tide offense. Now they have looked better since losing to Florida State, but that Georgia Bulldogs defense is pretty damn good. I think Tennessee's offense is just a very different uh, style of offense to prepare for, and
Right.
Kirby Smart is one of the best defensive minds in college football. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs and Gunnar Stockton to cover this spread.
Yeah, look, I don't have a ton of arguments there. I'm not going to go side here. I'm going to go total. Give me the over 52.5 -108.
Yeah,
Both these teams, like typically when you think of Alabama, Georgia, you think defense first. You think
yeah,
amazing monster running backs, and the quarterbacks do enough. These defenses have both shown a little bit of cracks, man.
yeah.
Alabama week 1 in Tallahassee, they could not stop the run. They got
Nope,
pushed around.
not even close.
What do the Georgia Bulldogs want to do? They want to run the ball and then, run the ball, play action, hit your tight ends, throw some screens out to Branch there, who's an electric.
No doubt.
Now, Georgia, typically they hold a Josh Heupel offense to 14 points a game. They let up 41 and probably should have lost that game in Knoxville.
Yes, definitely.
That secondary is very questionable. Usually they have some stud corners and safeties. I'm sure they're talented, they're highly rated, but this does not look as locked down. And what does Alabama want to do? Alabama has two of the best wide receivers in college football, and they got a
Yep.
quarterback who looks like he can sling it a little bit. I know he struggled, first time. He got the first road start. He's looked a little bit better.
Right.
But they're going to be slinging the ball. So whether that's turnovers or whether that's big plays, I think both these defenses are, compared to what the other team wants to do, they are susceptible to it. So I
Yeah.
think there's going to be some points in this one. Maybe it being the Florida in me, I don't want to outright pick Georgia, but you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the DeBauer thing is you cannot ignore. The coaching edge is all the way on the Georgia side in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, this Alabama offense has looked better. They have looked better,
Right.
but they beat a Wisconsin team 38-14. They just lost to Maryland
They got
this
blown out
past
by
week.
Maryland.
They lost to Maryland 27-10. So yes, they looked better,
Yeah.
and yes, they put what 63-73 on
Some no
Louisiana
name.
Monroe a couple weeks before that, but
Sure.
I just don't know if we can still trust this Alabama offense fully.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that Kirby Smart and just his defensive mind over a couple weeks will get that defense right after almost losing to the Volunteers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like your overplay because, like you said, these defenses are not as good as they used to be. But, yeah, I think I have to just stick with Georgia and the
I
history of
think
the
you're
sport.
on the right side. I do. The more I think about this game, yeah, the DeBoer stuff is just it's hard to ignore. They just
Yeah,
they looked unprepared in Tallahassee. This is a huge game. I always love to see Georgia lose, so maybe that's why I'm not fully pulling the trigger there. But I do
yeah,
think both these offenses. But if you told me that this game was 35-21 Georgia, I wouldn't
yeah,
be surprised. Like if something like that, where if Georgia does kind of run away with it, like both these defenses, I'm kind of struggling how they're going to stop. But you do have Kirby Smart, in the defensive mind, so we'll see. But hey, big game for Ryan Williams, and oh geez, his name's eluding me because I think he's actually the better wide receiver,
Bernard.
Journey Bernard. Yeah, man, that's going to be huge. They better come to play because if not, it's going to be a long day for the Crimson Tide. All right,
Yeah.
let's get to our favorite section. This is the best bets. We are going to give out a lock, a moneyline dog, and a teaser and a parlay. We've given out 8 games, and now it's time to solidify what our favorite plays of the week are. What is your lock for this college football week 5 slate?
Yeah, I think that high flying Rutgers offense is going to struggle a little bit against that Minnesota defense. I really like the under 51.5 in that game at -110.
Yeah, if you would tell me 51.5 is a huge total for a Big Ten West game. So
Yeah.
the fact that that's there, that's yeah. I'm going to be sticking with our weekday trend. We've
Okay.
dominated on the weekdays, so I feel really good about this Houston Cougars
Yeah.
team. Houston -13.5. It's partially Houston's looked very competent. They've looked very disciplined, very good, well coached team. Oregon
Yep.
has looked the exact opposite of all that. Oregon State, excuse me. Corvallis is not what Corvallis used to be. when they got, they're basically not in a conference in their Pac-2, and I know the Pac-12 is coming back next year, but
Right.
the fans have kind of like abandoned ship, and I don't really blame them. They've got a shit end of
Yep.
the stick here. Them and Washington State. Both those teams look absolutely terrible this year. Like the kind of energy's out of it. I expect Willie Fritz to have those boys ready to go on Friday night. You just got housed, beat by 30 plus by your rival, and now you have to come back and play this well-coached Houston Cougars team. They're not going to show up. I think, 0-4, just lost to your rival. Give me
Yep.
Houston to hammer them on Friday night. All right,
I
what's
like
your
it.
dog of the week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Buckeyes fan. I can't take Penn State. Come on now. This is going to be the Nittany Lions' first loss. Give me Oregon on the money line at plus 145.
Yeah, I would have probably taken this if you didn't have it already. Didn't want to double dip, but wrong team favored. Wrong team favored. I
Yep.
don't think Penn State has shown us really much. This one you're not gonna like. Give me the power of Kinnick Stadium. Give me Kirk Ferentz.
Mm.
Give me the Iowa Hawkeyes to get it done
Okay.
at home. Shock the world. The Indiana world beaters are coming to town, riding high. And the power of Kinnick, whether it's a pick six or a punt return, kickoff return, I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a defensive special teams touchdown by Iowa. They're going to close it out. Iowa on the money line at plus 240 is my play for my dog of the week there. What's your tease and your parlay?
Tease wise, let's tease Washington up to 14.5. Give them the 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
Indiana, I'll tease down to 1.5.
Can't
Ole
root for you there.
Miss, Ole Miss. I mean, this is personal when it comes to Lane Kiffin. We're talking family here, so give me Ole Miss plus 4.5. Put those 3 together at plus 140.
There you go. Nice tease there. My tease will be the Houston Cougars minus 7.5. Absolutely love them in that spot. Just talked about it. Iowa Hawkeyes plus 13.5. No way are they going to get embarrassed at home in Kinnick Stadium. And then Bama, Georgia over for 46.5 points. I think, again, offensives right now going up against the susceptible defenses.
Yep.
Put those all together plus 140. All right, what's your parlay to finish this out here?
Yeah, I got a little pleaser alt
Ooh,
spread
okay.
parlay here. So I took my lock at under 51.5 tees, or took the alt spread down to 44.5. I think this could be like a 24-20 game. So I stuck that at 44.5. And then Ole Miss, like I said, this is family. I think that Lane Kiffin is going to want to put it on weeks in that defense. So give me Ole Miss by 9.5.
It's a great angle. I will say that is the narrative is absolutely there. That is plus 810 if I'm reading
Plus
that
810.
correctly.
Yes, sorry. Yep.
All right. I'm gonna keep it fairly simple with just 2 as well. Give me the Oregon Ducks. We both talked about how much we love this play, and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. A little bit of Big Ten dog parlay. Put those together plus 537. Both those teams
Okay.
on the money line to go on the road, and I think wrong team's favorite despite being the road dogs there. So that's what I'm going with. Quick recap, and then we're going to get out of here. I will start with my man, Professor Locks. He is lock of the week is the Rutgers Minnesota game under 51.5 minus 110.
Yep.
The Oregon Ducks are his money line dog this week plus 145 to get some tears there in Happy Valley. And then the parlay is the pleaser of Rutgers Minnesota alt under 44.5 mixed with the Ole Miss minus 9.5 at plus 810. And his tease is Washington, Indiana, and Ole Miss, all tees, 6-point tees at plus 140.
Yep.
For myself, I will be taking the Houston Cougars as my lock of the week. We're continuing with the weekday trend that we are on, minus 13.5, minus 110 over in Corvallis. I got the Iowa Hawkeyes on the money line to keep the magic of Kinnick Stadium alive at plus 240. My tease for the week is Houston, Iowa, Bama, Georgia over 6-point tees at plus 140. And then give me Oregon and Rutgers on the money line. Big Ten dogs, wrong team favored, parlay plus 537. All right, folks. What do you got for the good people before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this college football show every Tuesday night for the past 4 or 5 weeks, and we're going to continue all the way through the national championship game. But we also do talk about the NFL on Wednesday night, so check that out. You're doing some IDP
Injury stuff.
plus,
Yeah.
some injury reports from the IDP fantasy side of things over to IDP plus. I'm doing my weekly waiver wire show on Sunday night, comes out Monday morning over there. But as always, share the show out to a friend, a buddy. If you're going to a wedding this weekend, give a toast to the DGen docs.
Yes.
But as always, please share, follow, do all the things. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, look, in honor of a great, great college football slate, man. If you've been rocking with us, whether it's just your first time for the season, we appreciate all the likes, all the subscribes. Let's hang out, let's talk ball, let's make some money and enjoy this college football and NFL season if you're into that. As Derek said, whether you want to tell us what you're tailing, what you're fading, what sending condolences and prayers to those brothers and sisters that have to go to weddings this weekend. Let's chop it up in the comments. You guys have been great this year about interacting, showing us some love. We really appreciate it. Okay, let's continue the train. Like we said, man, especially those weekdays. Don't sleep on those weekdays. We have 4-0
Right.
in the past 2 weeks. We're ready to make it 5-0.
We got to get some action
One.
going before too long. Start
Oh,
having
geez.
games
Yeah,
Tuesday,
imagine
Wednesday,
Wacky
Thursday.
Mac is a whole beast of its own. But we're almost to that time, folks. So look, enjoy the slate, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week here from the DGen Docs. Look, you know what they say, folks. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here on the DGen Docs, we've got your subscription. So from Professor Locks and Doc here on the DFSG Plus channel, we are out of here.